Last time on Final Fantasy IV, we recruited Tella, and then we lost Tella, and instead we recruited Edward, and everyone was a jerk to him for no reason. This time around, we're going to be going to the Antlion's Den in order to pick up the Sand Pearl, which sounds very gross. The word secrete was involved, and I'm now very uncomfortable. So, the Antlion's Den is mercifully short in comparison to the underground waterway. It's only 2 floors and they're all fairly simple. There is, however, a lot of treasure to pick up and a fair few side rooms, which the underground waterway really didn't have. Alright, so here we have some normal goblins and Domovoy, which is basically just a stronger goblin. Which doesn't really mean much because it's still very, very weak, so you shouldn't have any problems with it whatsoever. There's nothing too special about it, other than the fact that it doesn't actually have a rare drop that the normal goblins have. Basically, a few enemies in the game actually have a summon, like they'll drop an item that gives Rydia a new summon ability. The goblins have Goblin, which really isn't a very good summon. Like, all the rare drop summons aren't even all that good, so I never bother with them, and to be honest, I kind of forget they exist anyway, so really, who cares? Alright, so anyway, since this dungeon's fairly simple, although, one thing I will say, it's another cave, but it actually looks pretty interesting in comparison to the other ones. I kind of like the sort of height it has, and also just the coloring of it. I mean, it's a lot of brown and yellow, but it's not bad. It's definitely a more interesting looking cave. It's unique compared to everything else. This is Adamantoise. It's weak to ice, resistant to electricity, and apparently you can't make it fall in love. So anyway, about Edward. So, his main ability is, of course, Bard Song, which is an ability that allows him to, well, it's basically a special type of magic for him. He's got some very specific spells, unlike Final Fantasy III, where, if I remember correctly, that version, depending on what type of harp you had, that was what spell you used. It's not like that here. The harps are basically just new weapons for Edward. And Bard Song can be used by anything, and it is pretty much like any other magic. Like Rydia, he will gain new magic as he levels up, so look forward to some new Bard Songs, including one that is really good. Like, I think the next one we get, actually, is one of his best. It does have its drawbacks, but it also has its advantages, which we'll talk about. Next off, the ability Salve, which was kinda super glitchy in earlier versions, to the point where I think it was actually removed in the American version and also Easy Type. If you don't know what Easy Type is, basically the North American version was easier than the Japanese version of the original game. Easy Type is basically the American version, but, you know, for the Japanese players. Anyway, that is Life's Anthem, and that was indeed the Bard Song I was talking about. Life's Anthem is really good. It's basically a constant regen spell. However, the major drawback of it is when Edward is attacked, any Bard Song he's using, if it's like a prolonged one, the single-use ones don't matter, but if he has to use it constantly, then it will interrupt him. It's pretty much like that in any given RPG with a Bard, you know, like games or tabletop. If a bard is in the middle of a song but they get interrupted, then that song will stop, and that's not good for anyone, and unfortunately I have terrible luck when it comes to Life's Anthem, because sometimes I'm just trying to heal, but it seems like the enemies won't stop attacking Edward, and when there are only 3 characters in the party, there is a 1/3 chance of him being attacked. Maybe not exactly, but probably pretty close. So chances are you probably are going to be interrupted, but if you're not, the regen spell is really good, especially since Rydia's only got so much HP, or MP rather, and Bard Song, yeah, really easy to cast. In fact, I don't think Bard Song takes any MP, does it? Yeah, because he's only got 33, so I don't think it takes any MP to use it. So the only drawback is the fact that you can be interrupted from using it. Now, I didn't actually finish explaining Salve, did I? So basically in the original version... Oh yeah, and I'm grinding to find a certain type of enemy. But in the original version it was pretty useless because it consumed 2 potions, and this is the enemy I was talking about, in order to heal the party. And it was really bad because even if you had 1 potion, you could technically use the ability, but it wouldn't be used. Because basically, it would consume the potion, but it wouldn't actually give you the good effects of healing the entire party with it. So, yeah, Salve wasn't that good. In this version, I believe it only takes 1 potion. Actually, no, it's not even just potions. It's pretty much all consumable items, and it applies it to the entire party. So, it's pretty damn useful if you use items a lot. I don't, so it's not particularly useful for me, but definitely an improvement over the original. And, of course, the Basilisk enemy right there has the Stone Gaze ability, which is, I believe, a gradual petrify, not like a straight-up petrify that petrifies you immediately. And here are the yellow jellies. I hate these guys so fucking much. They're not difficult enemies, even though they do attack a lot, and when I... Oh, I finally get to mention that, don't I? I'll mention that in just a moment, but, yeah, they do attack a lot, but they're not too much of a threat. They're weak to fire and electricity. However, these enemies, as I mentioned with the red moose, have a rare drop called the Rainbow Pudding. That's not a concern in the earlier versions of the game. You don't have to wait around for the Rainbow Pudding in that, because I don't even think the Rainbow Pudding does appear in earlier versions of the game. It's DS exclusive, and you're going to need it for a side quest. It's a 5% drop, and I will rant about this more later because I hate rare drops, but I hate yellow jellies because of it. But anyway, enough about that. So you noticed back there that I just switched rows, right? You know how in earlier games, and really in later games as well, you have to, when you get back attacked, individually switch rows with every character in order to get everyone back in place? Because the rows in this game are a very specific order, you either have 3 in front, 2 in back, or 2 in front, 3 in back, you only need to swap rows with 1 character, and everyone will automatically do that. It's so good. I love that. I love the row system in this game. It's so good. And just the fact that back attacks are less of an issue than they are in other games is just fantastic. I love that. It's such a good feature. So simple, but so good. Alright, so I still haven't finished talking about Edward. His third and final ability is actually the reason everyone hates him so much. It's the ability Hide. Hide will basically take you out of the battle. Not completely, only for a little while. But basically, the character will just be, well, completely invincible because nobody can target them. Of course, the character can't attack either. Now, the reason everyone hates Edward is because in the original version of the game, this was not an active ability, or an activated ability, rather. It was a passive ability. When you got to a certain amount of HP, Edward would automatically run away and hide. So yeah, you had no control over it whatsoever. And nobody cared for that, and I'm pretty sure I already have the Shadow Blade, right? Yeah, that's what I already have equipped, so... But yeah, Edward, everyone hated him because of that. That's not the case in this version. You choose when you want to hide, which honestly doesn't happen too frequently. I usually like using Life's Anthem, but yeah, that's the reason no one likes Edward. Though, Hide does have its uses. Oh, Jesus. By the way, that's an enemy that can be found around Kaipo. He just automatically used Whirlwind, which is a spell that takes you to low HP automatically. Or at the very least takes a lot of HP out of you, but yeah. You could find this guy around Kaipo when he was more dangerous then, and as I said back there, he's weak to ice. But anyway, yeah, as I was saying, Hide's not an ability I really like using, and I don't think there's a very good opportunity for using it in Final Fantasy IV, but if you want to see a good use of Hide, go check out Slow Beef's run of the 5-job fiesta thing from last year. He did that, and there was actually a really creative use of the hide command. Because, man, when you don't have a white mage in Final Fantasy V, you gotta take some pretty creative strategies. Oh yeah, and I did actually go look for the final set of enemies. For a while I was doing this, but to be honest, at a point I stopped caring about rare enemies. I mean, in fairness, Leshy's not really a rare enemy. Weak to fire and ice, not really resistant to anything, but yeah. These guys aren't really rare enemies. In all honesty, the Sandworm's probably the rarest one here, I think. But yeah, they're not really threats, they don't have any sort of special abilities, and that's pretty much it. Nothing special about them, but yeah, when there are actually rare enemies, I stop giving a fuck because rare enemies are such a dumb concept. Like Warmech in Final Fantasy I. It's like, oh no, Warmech is so dangerous, oh no. Yeah, the enemy that can kick my ass doesn't appear, so why should I care? I mean, as I've already said, I hate rare drops, but rare enemies are just pointless. Why bother hiding enemies from me? If you want me to encounter things, just let me encounter them, otherwise they're completely pointless. Oh well. So, just FYI, you might want to heal here, for no particular reason. Not like this looks like a boss room or anything, or it's not like the map is automatically filled out when you get to a boss room. Certainly not. Let me be an example. Do-do-do-do-do. Oh dear. Wait, let me try again. I got this. Maybe it was just very angry for some particular reason. Anyway, here's this freaky Antlion thing. So the Antlion is a fairly easy boss, but this is another one where you're really going to want to watch your actions and make sure you don't do anything with too much haste. So first things first, Antlion is weak to poison. Antlion also has 2,000 HP, gives you 6,000 experience, 1,500 gil. Now, for this battle, you're gonna want to watch the eyes. Yeah, it just gave it away right there. It counters magic when its eyes are red. So, yeah. Basically, I'm sure you can guess it'll also counter physical attacks when its eyes are white, and that's basically the strategy here. I forget what it uses. I think it only uses the pincer's attack when you counter it. It doesn't have different counters for whether you hit it with physical when its eyes are white or magic when its eyes are red. I don't even remember what pincers does. I mean, if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say it's just a physical attack that does a lot of damage, but I've never really seen it because as long as you don't rush this fight and just constantly attack it, you should never see it. It's pretty easy to not get countered. Also, I just realized something an entire part later. Did I say that the little mages were the first enemies that had a counter? Yeah, I was completely wrong, because that's the Mist Dragon. How did I fuck that up? The Mist Dragon is clearly the first thing that has a counter. But anyway, yeah, just don't attack too frequently. Once its signs change color, attack it a whole lot, then lay off until it changes again. If you want to count out the actual seconds it takes in order for its eyes to change color, go right ahead. I'm not going to put that much effort into it. I guess it is a fairly damaging boss, but other than that, it doesn't attack too frequently. Heck, I did say it's powerful, but honestly it doesn't do that much, so as long as you don't get countered, you should be fine. And the poison helps speed this battle along, because you can use it right at the start of the fight, and when you do, it just... like, it may go down in small numbers, but at the same time, over time, that 20 damage really helps. Oh, and it's also weak to ice, just FYI, so that's why I'm using Blizzard. It's not particularly weak to anything else, and another thing I have to mention, it is always such a relief to see the enemy shift back to its normal color, because once you use a status effect on it, the enemy will darken a bit. And this is really good for bosses because the moment it just becomes lighter again, that's when you know that the battle is over. And for tougher fights, that is such a relief. Of course, the Antlion's not a tough boss. Plus, it might have also hated you personally. Like I do! And that's that. Also, Cecil just being straight to the point. I didn't even get to mention how I thought it was hilarious that they started the dramatic music for that short scene to just explain that yes, monsters are still a problem, and by the way, warp doesn't help here, but look at this. Whoa! Somehow warp took us out of the dungeon. How did it do that? Whoa! It's like I edited this or something. So now that we have the hovercraft, we have a very easy way back to Kaipo, because it would be absolutely impossible to get back there otherwise. So I don't know how anyone in Damcyan really rules over the desert, because Kaipo is the only town here and it's miles away, and you can only get here via hovercraft, so there's quite a bit of separation between the castle and its village. You'd think that would bother some people, but apparently it doesn't. Oh well, who cares about politics? We gotta get the Sand Pearl over to Rosa. Quick, just... I don't know how to use this thing, so slam it into her face, and then she's cured. See? Light of the Pearl shone on her face. She didn't have to swallow it or anything, which is good. Again, the word secreted was used, so it's best she doesn't have to taste it. We just have to slam it on her face, and boom, we're done. Just drop the orb on her, and everything's cured. How would she know? She probably... Wait, seriously? This all must have happened pretty quickly, because in order to reach us here within the span of a day, which, by the way, yeah, Rosa did get here in less than a day, so she probably had to leave pretty quickly. Again, Rosa, pretty damn badass, it's just, unfortunately, all of that was off-screen. I kinda burnt her village down. Oh, and murdered her mother as well. Really, the whole situation is awkward. Oh no, Rosa's still sick even though we cured her. I guess we're just gonna have to be worried about her health for the whole game. Come on, Cecil, she's basically the best white mage in the series. Come on, Cecil, she wants to be with you. And at least you have a girlfriend who's not dead. Not that I'm bitter or anything. Alright, well, I guess since we're going to bed, that means there's going to be some sort of important cutscene. Because whenever there's a free in-visit, that means there's going to be an important cutscene afterwards. Oh, River, at least you still love me. Let me just whip out my harp. Out of nowhere. I will will this into existence. Oh no, Hooded Man! Oh no, the Hooded Man was actually a fish man! How does that even work? Also, I just remembered I forgot to mention a thing that I wanted to mention it at the end of the last part, but then I was like, no, it's almost the end of this part, so I'll mention the next part. And then I forgot to mention it again. Okay, I'll try to mention it next time then. I've just had so much to talk about. Anyway, yeah, this is a story cutscene. In the original version of the game, I believe this was basically here in order to give Edward a whole lot of level ups. It doesn't do that here, because he doesn't need them as much, because A, I think he starts at a higher level, and B, he doesn't auto-run or die a lot, so he probably more or less levels up with everyone else. Anyway, eventually we will jam session this fishman's face off. Oh dear, I have been confused. This is the end of me. That is so obviously scripted. The fishman couldn't even die on command. He was like, oh shoot, I should be dead, sorry. Didn't die fast enough. That last shot was supposed to kill me.
I can be with you but for this moment. The spirit calls me onward to become a part of it again.
It's pizza night, so, you know, Edward, I want to talk to you, but pizza, it's really good, it's meatball, I'm sorry, there are breadsticks and mozzarella sticks as well, so I gotta go.
Anna, my love, I will try. But what would you have me do?
Well, you're playing music without even touching your harp strings, so that's pretty impressive. And absolutely no one has a reaction to that. So we're just about done here. We can look over Rosa's stats once we see everybody's thoughts. But I don't think I'll actually describe Rosa in battle just yet. She does have one major advantage, and I did actually mention that rare drop a little while ago that the yellow jellies have. And I also want to put Rosa in the back row, because she's not a good front row character at all. Ooh, and I also want to mention her weapon as well. But anyway, yeah, she does have a really good ability that helps grind for that rare drop from the yellow jellies, which is why I wait until we actually get Rosa in order to use it. Hint hint, it's prey. Anyway, she actually starts with a staff. I want to change that, because in this version of the game, the bow is really good. You want to know why? We don't have any arrows at the moment, but it's easy enough to buy them. And the thing is, arrows don't deplete in this game. You only need one arrow for the entire thing. That's it. When you have one arrow, you have everything you need. So you can have a semi-powerful Rosa who attacks with bows. It's not incredibly useful because she is a lot more useful for healing, but if you do want to attack, bows are good for that, especially since bows do usually have good status effects, and as I said before, status effects can be useful in this game. So, I still don't think we'll be setting auto potion just yet. And I think all we're going to do is go to the shop to buy some arrows. Or really one arrow. Maybe I should have waited until I only bought one arrow. To be like, oh, whoa, I'm only buying one arrow? Why is that? Oh, it's because you only need one. But nah, why wait? I spoiled the surprise, but nah, who cares that much? So yeah, you just need the one arrow and you're set for life. Of course, there will be better arrows in the game, but for now, Power Bow, Iron Arrow, pretty good for Rosa. And of course, she has the aim ability that just allows her to automatically hit a thing. It is just a 100% accuracy shot. It just takes it takes slightly longer than a normal attack. But anyway, I said I didn't want to go for abilities, so we'll save that for next time on Final Fantasy IV. And next time on Final Fantasy IV, I get to grind for rare drops. Yay!